Trace.
That is some tissues under the.
Okay. Put it. Gonna put this.
Yeah, so you guys know the event started with Mike.
We'll take no questions from you, Kruger. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. I'll behave myself.
It's actually not because you're never going to. It's just. Can I just say, sitting in the cheap.
You know, the boss is right here. The boss is right here.
Your boss is just about to say, Kruger's sitting in a cheap seat. Suits you.
The naughty, the naughty face.
Harassing.
Yeah.
No,
You gotta put, yeah. I've got a water.
Sorry, one thing I didn't Sorry, I don't know what the matters is.
I mean,
What expectations are you gonna say? My name's Katie. I have the video. I'm video on my team. Oh, so we do today.
I used to buy a house, but I'm not so.
Yeah. I got close. I was like, so next time. It's really saying.
Morning, everybody. Let's kick off. No mai haere mai ki Kinehi. Welcome to Mārie. I hope your puppies are full and that you've had a lovely breakfast. For those online, I want to welcome you all too. Before we go any further, I'm going to kick us off with a karakia. This is our Genesis karakia. I've got our kupu up on the screen. I'd love for you to follow along with me if you feel comfortable. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou ia tātou katoa. Huie, tai ie. Beautiful. Sorry. All right, housekeeping, we always have to do that. We're an electricity company and health and safety is number one for us, right? So for those in the room, restrooms, you can use that door. We've got passes for you to get through and out to those areas. So, and we've got people out in the lobby that can help you get to where you need to go. In the event of an evacuation, we really hope that doesn't happen today. But if that does, our Genesis staff are all trained to know how to take care of you, our manuhiri, today. The exit is sort of just off reception, so follow everybody else. We are on the 6th floor, so do be careful. We're not in a rush. We want to get you all down to the ground very safely. But yeah, like I said, let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's kick off. Ko waio, who am I? I'm Areta Maki. I work at the Huntly Power Station here at Genesis, based out on site, and I love my job. I'm a member of the Genesis Women in Wholesale group. We're a small but mighty group, 18% of our business unit, and we're headed up by Tracy Hickman, our amazing Chief Wholesale. I also want to recognise Claire. Hi, welcome. She's our CPO, and we've got Malcolm, our CEO, in the audience. No mai hoki mai, korua. And one of the other hats I wear is I'm on the steerco of Mana Wāhine. I just want to recognise Rebecca, our chair, who's somewhere over there in the audience. Morena. So this today is a combination, I guess, of these two kaupapa that I'm very passionate about, women in wholesale, and then Mana Wāhine for our electricity industry. Sorry. I'll just flick forward. So what is Mana Wāhine? What is this all about? Who are we? We're an industry group and we're all about championing diverse voices for our energy industry. Particularly, I guess we're wanting to amplify women in our industry, right up from entry level through to the C-suite. So this group is for all. And I can see someone already opening up their phone. That QR code will take you to our website. If our kaupapa sounds like a bit of you, either in line or in person, no mai, you can sign up to be a member of our network. everyone's welcome, even though, you know, we're championing female voices, we love our male allies. So please take the time either today or now, later today, to join our network. Before I go any further, yep, just want to check off I've got everything covered. And I do. I'm going to invite Alice. Alice is from our Women in Wholesale Network. Today's actually been put on by this group, so I really want to focus on that group. Alice is going to introduce our amazing key speakers. So, thank you, Alice.
Kia ora. Tēnā koutou, ko Alice Bane toku ingoia, he kaimahi o mō Genesis. A big warm welcome to everyone here. It's really exciting. I'm pumped that we're all here today. It's been a bit of a journey to organise, but we're here and wonderful to have everyone here in the room with us, but also online. Kia ora. I know we have a few watch parties of groups around the motu, so we've got our Genesis whānau down in Kirikiriroa. I know there's a watch party from our contact Wāhine over in Wairake, and also a big group from Transpara as well. As I said in my intro, Alice Barnett toku ingoa. I have had the privilege of being part of our environment and community team here at Genesis for about 6 years, with 2 years off for my 2 babies. And I have the pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Andy Blair, who I'll get up here shortly. But a bit of a story first. So I first met Andy 7 years ago. We shared a co-working office space in Taupo. And it was at the time of my career where I was thinking about what to do next and what were the opportunities. And at that time, it was Andy was setting up Upflow with their business partner, Dr. Paul. Kia ora, Dr. Paul, if you're online. And I got to hear them strategizing and thinking about how they were going to take over the world. And if I flick to the next slide. On. There we go. We can see Andy's like really impressive achievements and milestones, and only recent ones as well. And as you can see, they wanted to take over the world. She wanted to be president, and she was the president of the International Care Family Association. So I want to acknowledge all of these impressive things that Andy has done throughout her career, which she'll talk about today, about her journey. And also shout out that the King also knows how awesome you are, Andy. Last year for the geothermal industry. So Andy will be familiar to some of you, but new to others. So we're really excited that she's joining us today. I guess one of the reasons coming back to today's session about why Andy is here is it was kind of selfish on my behalf, because I had the opportunity to help organise this event. And it wasn't long after that Energy News article came out about the gender pay gap, about 22% less pay for Wāhine in our sector. So when it came out, I'm sure many of you felt it as well, felt a bit disheartened, a bit down about it. And I thought, well, instead of feeling that way, let's get someone like Andy who uplifts women and share some learnings and think about like what we can do collectively to get past that pay gap. So I always leave conversations with Andy feeling with that bit of fire in my belly, feeling the courage ignited. I hear her in the back of my head sometimes. Yeah, lucky me. About taking that seat at the table and owning it. And I hope that through her kōrero today, either if it's if she's new to you or refreshing that you might take away some of those learnings, those gems, have that fire in your belly ignited as well. So thank you again, Andy, for joining us today. Because I don't think any of us want to sit here in a few years' time and still be talking about this pay gap and gender diversity. We want to, accelerate action, make some change. So without further ado, don't mind Andy, please come up and give Andy a big warm welcome.
Inga mana i ngā iwi, ka hune ngā mihi kia koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai ki tēnei kōrero to all of you online and all my geothermal friends. I'm back. And to all you people I haven't met yet, this is about to happen. It's okay, just relax. So, nā te tararai te iwi ko Andrea Blair toku ingoa. So that's who I am. I am from Taupo. I live in Taupo, and I'm going to talk through today about a bit of a journey that I've gone through. Don't worry, I'm not going to try and be the boring person that talks about every detail, but I'll start at the beginning because it'll help shape where I am now. And so what I really want from you all today to walk away from my kōrero is to feel inspired and empowered, but also to be super intolerant of the rubbish and do something. So I want to inspire you into action, and let's see how that goes. All right. This is what it looks like. This is how it's going to be. It's quite informal, just relax. I'll get all the tough questions, and that's absolutely fine. So I grew up in Taupō, and I did total immersion Māori when I was at intermediate. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through every year of my life. But I'm not Māori, and I don't know why I wanted to do that, but back in the old days, because I'm quite old, I did total immersion Māori, and that was really important for me later on in life. I went to Tauhara College massive, and our Māori teacher was Te Roroa Flavel. And so I am a science nerd. I love science. So I feel really comfortable in Te Ao Māori ki Te Ao Rangahau. So I didn't realize that was special until I got older, and being able to walk through those worlds and feel okay, I think is really a gift for me and helped inform my journey. So I went on to study forestry science. That's my background in science, is in forestry. And it was really interesting. My first experience of like, oh my God, it's not the same for women. Really, the realization happened then. So when I was studying forestry my second year, the head of forestry said to me and the one other woman that was studying forestry out of the 500 that started, women will never make it in forestry. You guys should change your majors now. And so I looked at her and she looked at me like, right. And so out of the 12 that graduated, we both were still there. And so then went on to be a forester in the Central North Island. And so lots of experience of what that looks like from being someone that looks and feels a bit different. In that experience in forestry is where I became Andy. I was a senior forester, yet no one engaged with me. They'd always look at my junior or my intern and shake his hand and ask him questions. I didn't get email responses, or I had to get him to email people. And so I changed my name to Andy with a Y on purpose. And it changed, which is horrifying. So that's why I'm Andy with a Y. That's still, now I get called, yes, Mr. Andy, yes, Dr. Andy, which is okay, but I don't have a PhD. But, you know, that's where it began. And so I'm not 1,000 years old. I feel like it sometimes, but it's not that long ago that that was a real thing. And then I took a sort of side step in my career and I became the general manager of Kiwi Experience. What? Yeah, full side step. And then about 17, 18 years ago, I got into the geothermal sector because I'm a nerd. I love science. I'm super curious and I want to do good things in the world. I worked for GNS Science for 10 years. I was the business development manager for geothermal, hydrogeology and microbiology, then peered down onto geothermal and just smashed it all the way home. And so for 10 years, I went around the world and got contracts for subsurface science for some science geeks that I worked with who were, you know, world leaders. And about 7.5 years ago, me and my business partner, Paul, started Upflow. And like all good partnerships, I met Paul at a party in San Diego with drinking margaritas. And so that's how Upflow started. We wanted to be the gap between deep science and commercial reality, because I worked in science and saw all the cool stuff, and then in the commercial space, not seeing the adoption of that cool stuff. So that's where Upflow became. So to talk a little bit about how I fit into your sector, in the energy sector, I'll just do a little bit about Upflow. Don't worry, I'm not trying to sell stuff. We're real busy. I don't need any more work right now. So our mantra is do cool shit with great people for the good of the world. And that's not just a cheesy byline. We actually use that to determine whether or not we do projects. So if it's not cool and interesting, we won't do it. If people are dickheads or we don't respect or they don't align with our values, we say no. And there has to be something more than money in the outcomes of the projects that we do. So, I mean, sorry to all the people online, maybe we've said no to your projects, you figure out which one of those three. Quite confronting. So this is my team of unicorns. Me and Paul at the top there. No reason why we're at the top. We shouldn't be. But these amazing people follow us into the battle every day and do amazing things. So what we do is in the geothermal sector, you know, you create electricity and we contribute to the electricity market space. Geothermal 101, I'm going to give you the 10-second version of what it is. Rain falls down, goes under the ground, goes across a heat surface, heats up, finds cracks, comes to the surface. As it comes to the surface, grabs minerals and gases and all sorts of stuff, comes to the top like soup. You've just learnt about geothermal. So I've oversimplified, sorry to my geothermal colleagues, very deep and complex work, but that's basically geothermal. So not only do we use the heat to generate electricity, but there's things in those fluids that are really, really useful and interesting for the world. So critical minerals, lithium, and all those critical minerals that are in your technology devices, all can be found in geothermal minerals. As it comes up, grabs them out of the rocks and sort of mines the rock for us. We don't need to create open cast mines. We can get lithium from the fluid. Gas, grabs gas as it goes through, brings it to the surface. All sorts of stuff. Also creates weird, unique environments on the surface where interesting microbes can live. So what my team does, is create what we call geosystems, right? Cute. Geothermal ecosystems. And basically, we do electricity and we do other things with the residues from the electricity generation process. So what we do is we understand the unique environments and what the opportunities are and map out how they can cascade together to create a significantly greater outcome. So a holistic approach towards resource use. And then some interesting things here. And then what we do, this is how engineers see the world, right? It's okay, everyone just relax. And then we layer a commercial layer over the top and understand how the techno-economic feasibility of things come together. We think about mapping out for clients, okay, when electrolyzers hit a certain dollar point for you particularly there because of your unique situation, that's when you should turn online. And we lay this across and manage resources and opportunities in this way. I say we, I mean my competent unicorns, and I make broad sweeping statements that make them nervous. Now, a couple of projects. We do research, consultancy, and we build innovation tools. Research because we want to be at the front of thinking and influence thinking, but also know where things are going. Consultancy because we want to understand the problems in the sector and make sure that we understand what the drivers are. And then we put those things together and create tools for the industry to adopt and use. So that deep science to real world adoption. So I'm just going to tell you about a couple of projects. So it all, you're like, what is she actually talking about? So one project we have is called the X-Files project. Like if you're old like me, X-Files, you know it. It's out there. The truth is out there. So extremophiles are microbes that live in extreme environments. So geothermal fluid, when it gets to the surface, is super hot. There's weird things in it. Normal life, you think, should not exist there. Only extreme microbes live there. So things that can put up with high temperature, high toxicity, all sorts of weird stuff. And the bodily adaptations they have that allow them to live there provide opportunities for biotech. And this is some ground at Rotakawa, which is just north of Taupo. And we found two microbes here, by we also, not me, that exist in this ground here. And one's a phototroph, which means it uses light like photosynthesis. And one's a methanotroph, which uses methane for food and methylacetyphilium. Cute. And what we've done is we've put these microbes together and we feed them, just on the left-hand side, CO2 and methane. That is their food source, and they work together to eat those gases, only those gases, nothing else, and we make single-cell protein, so food. So actual, yes, protein food that animals and people can eat. Well, they can't eat them yet because we're in the early stage of the pilot. But so taking those geothermal microbes, feeding them gas, making protein, hopefully going to feed animals. In 2018, New Zealand imported 3 million tonnes of animal feed from locations like Sumatra and other rainforest locations. You know, it's just not cool to feed our animals food from those sort of locations. Why don't we feed them from here? So our goal here for this project is to be able to create technology to plug into geothermal power stations all around the world to create food in those markets direct at source. So another quick project, and I'm talking, yeah, it doesn't look quick. Google, sounds like Google, but it isn't, so we don't want to get sued. Geothermal operational optimization with machine learning. Catchy, I didn't make up the name. And basically we're the first non-US company to get funding from the US Department of Energy's Renewable Energy Department. They funded us to build machine learning algorithms to optimize geothermal power stations. And the goal for the project, it was a 5-year project, is between a 1 and 10% increased output with no capital investment, just using machine learning. And we've done it, and we've finished the project, and we're on to the commercialization of it. Basically, this is Google. This is what Midjourney thinks Google looks like. We did things like we put in a maintenance scheduling tool to say, well, here's a way to demonstrate Google's value. Put your annual maintenance schedule in and let Google figure out an optimized way to increase output and power. Just, you know, it'll find its way. And we found 13 megawatts just from scheduling maintenance at different times over 12 months. So really cool tool, really exciting. So it sort of shows the sort of breadth of stuff that we look at. If someone else is doing it, it won't be us. Okay, everyone just breathe. It's all over now. Everyone just some easier things. So some other roles that I have had and still have is President of the World. Look at my big head, isn't that awesome? President of the International Geothermal Association based out of the Netherlands. So I'm the immediate past president. When I became the president, it was really interesting. I was sitting in the board, I was on the board at the time, and we were having a discussion about, you know, what we should do for the next round of elections. And we brought up, why don't we mandate 50% of the board to be women? Some people in the room feel very uncomfortable. And you know, a lot of debate, a lot of anxiousness, a lot of like, oh, it doesn't feel fair, ironically. And in the end, you know, everyone didn't resolve that. Everyone sort of was like, oh, I didn't get it across the line. And I stood up and said, the only difference between you mandating it or not is how much work I'm going to do, because it's going to happen. And they decided not to, so I did it really hard. So when I became the president, I did it because I knew I could get there, and I had a moral obligation to do it. I knew that my sector and the women in my sector needed to see someone that looks different in a leadership space that leads differently, so they can see their line of sight. I didn't need more jobs. I've got things to do, but I could see it and I knew I should go get it. And so I got it. But the best part is not telling everyone you're the president of the world, which is actually my niece and nephew thinks quite cool, is the fact that when I went, we took a board of greater than 60% board members, and the previous highest percentage was 17% prior to that in the 40, 50 years of it going. So for me, that was a massive win. And it was really interesting the day that was announced at the board meeting, see all the nervousness in the room when the sudden realization that it looks a bit different now. And one of my colleagues piped up and said, well, maybe we should use our power to, you know, bring someone on board to even up the numbers. And I said, first of all, everyone else, oxygen left the room. And I said, well, first of all, let's just wait 500 years and see how we feel about that. And second of all, if you had that power all the time, why didn't you change it before? And so that was an interesting conversation. So you can see that me being in this space created a lot of conversation. So being the president meant I had to do a whole lot of interesting things. I was a big head on a screen in many locations around the world. I met with global leaders and connected with them and had some really interesting conversations. I was invited to Emirati Princess's palace for dinner. This is the beach house. I found myself in locations like Iceland, trying to navigate my way around to meetings. And this is actually from an incident, well, not call it an incident. One of my friends and colleagues, Roland, he's a professor at Stanford, and I were trying to get to a very important meeting in Iceland. And I said, I'll drive, Roland, and you coordinate the, directions. And so he would say, turn left on Hafna. I don't even know what that means. And then, so that was impossible. And then so I rang my friend Bjarni and he said, where are you? I said, we're on Skolda. I said, so just stand outside and yell your name? What shall we do? So find myself at interesting navigation, not just in boardrooms, but in locations. I opened a nightclub in Glasgow. Yeah, sounds cool, just wait. And this nightclub uses the heat from people dancing and use it and sucks it out, puts it underground, and then uses that heat for heating for residential businesses around. So I went and officiate some cool things. And going to places like the Caribbean and talking about gender empowerment for the World Bank. What is that face? I mean, obviously winning friends and influencing people. So in my role as president, I found myself having the ability to influence and participate in conversations, which is really important. I'd just like to recognise Kenny Choi. So put your hand up, Kenny. So Kenny is the CE of the New Zealand Geothermal Association. So she's in that scene. Another role that I have, and I'd just like to acknowledge Katie Brunnick, and raise your hands, who's the CE of Global Women. So I'm on the board of Global Women. And if you don't know about it, it's a group of like 500 kick-butt women who are trying to make a difference for women in Aotearoa. And it was really interesting. How did I get on the board? So Teresa Gadding rang me one day out of the blue and she said, hi, it's Teresa Gadding. I was like, yeah, it is. And she said, I'm just ringing, I've heard about you, I've got some questions if you could help me with something. I was like, okay. And so she asked me a few questions about a few issues she was having. What I didn't know is that she was basically interviewing me for this role. And I just went full Andy. I was like, well, I don't know what's really going on. I'm just going to be full Andy. And then she invited me to join the board. And I was like, what? Like women on this board are like kick butt, top of their game women, and like, you know, Julia Ray, Susan Peterson, Teresa herself, you know, Jenny Shipley, Helen Clark have been there, May Chen, all the power hitters in New Zealand women, you know, scene. Well, not the only ones. And I said, what do you see in me? Like, what the heck, you know, I'm just Tauhara College massive. What is going on here? And Teresa said, we need an agitator. And I was like, I've been training for this my whole life. So yes, so very proud to work with the crew at Global Women. Let's hope they feel the same way. So a couple of recent honours that I got. So this is, I recently in 2023, I won an award from the UN called We Empower, which is Women in Entrepreneurship. And for women, recognise women whose businesses are aligned with the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So every year there are 5 global winners, and I was the first one. First New Zealander. Go New Zealand. And yeah, Mena from Egypt, Diana from Tanzania, Susan from Canada, and Karin from Panama. And we all went to the UN and went to the US in Climate Week, the United Nations Climate Week, participated in a whole lot of events. This award was so amazing for me. It really opened my eyes. So partners to this award are like Rockefeller Foundation, Salesforce, Airbnb, all the big brands globally. And we went to New York for a week. We had 16 events in 4 days. And we spoke on panels, we spoke in the UN, we were part of, you know, Gates Foundation, like it's called Goalkeepers, where they come and bring you in, and Bill Gates and Melinda Gates bring all their friends in and talk about problems and ask you questions, and you become part of an alumni where they test ideas with you. Just such a huge experience. The Salesforce team brought us in for a whole day and worked on our businesses with us, with their executives, and just crazy, awesome stuff. Anyway, this was at Diane von Furstenberg. I don't know if you know her. She's a dress designer. Yeah, we have a pitch event, and we went there and brought in like 100 people, all the big investors in the US during Climate Week would come in, and we pitched. We got training with some people and pitched our products and businesses, and just got so much support. The thing that I learned from this was not, wow, that's so cool and amazing. What I realized is, wow, we're so cool and amazing that I'm not just a woman from New Zealand, number 8, wiring it with solutions and ideas. The ideas that we are generating out of here are world leading. They are people were all over us. People wanted to know how can I give you money? How can I do this? I'm like, well, this is my bank account details. But you know, so I think we really undermined how advanced our thinking is down here. And we sit in boxes and cupboards and say, well, we just, just Kiwis. No, the world has what we want. It's just that we don't have access to the oxygen to get it. That's the only problem. Next thing is, yes, I got recognised, but in the King's Honours. Yeah, no, thanks AI. And that was for my investment in energy in geothermal energy sector, and also in my work with women. And that was super awesome. The coolest part was the fact that Cindy Kiro, she gave me my medal, and that she's a Ngāpuhi woman, a Ngāti Hine, and my niece sitting with me at the table was Ngāti Hine, and she could see herself. And I thought that was really, really cool. And so I really loved that. So what happens when you get awards and you get roles? Well, first of all, you should get good headshots. I've got one that has this common, sort of, you'll see it everywhere. You get in Forbes magazine, you get, superstars talking about you. You get in podcasts and they make comic figures of you, quoting you, saying weird stuff. And it's really weird when it blows up. I'm still just Andy from Tauhara College. But I think the most important, most fulfilling work that I've done in my career is with a group called Women in Geothermal Wing. So Wing's mission is to promote the empowerment of women in the geothermal energy sector. And in 2013 in Las Vegas, I was a co-founder. We founded Wing. I think it's so funny that we started in Vegas and left Vegas. And at the time we were, I was traveling around the world. I was seeing a lot of technical women sit in the back of the room, not getting the credit, had lots of male voices, but seeing their names on the graphs and not getting the space. So we're like, how do we connect up these women in remote locations and empower them together so they feel like they're not the Lone Ranger? Wing has grown into, it's just over 10 years old now, and well, do the math, 12 years, well, I don't know math. 3,500 members in 86 countries, and it's the largest single geothermal association in the world. And it's 15% male membership target. So one of the key things I knew about setting up Wing was it's not about women sitting in a corner trying to solve problems for women. This is a societal problem. Men don't sit in rooms and go, how do we keep the women down? No, society does this to us, right? And so all of society has to help us solve it. And we need men to be in the room because they're in the positions of power. They can pull us across the void. We need everybody to lift. And we this year have just started up the Wing Foundation in the US, thanks to Ormac for supporting our legal work around that. Very interesting time to be setting up a non-for-profit for women empowerment in the US, just saying. But our goal for this foundation is to be able to get large sums of money from some of the big companies and sponsors and NGOs to support the work that we do. So One, I'll give you an example of how the impact of Wing, what it looks like. So in 2018, I was invited to speak at an event in El Salvador. It was the Latin American Energy Conference. And the CEO of Wāhine, which is the state electricity generator there, invited me to come to speak at the conference. And this is a shot from the room. And just before I got up to speak, they were like, "Oh, Andy, can you just stand over here for a minute? We just have to take all the tables out." And so they stood up for 10 minutes, they took all the tables out and brought in chairs because over 250 people wanted to come and listen to the talk. Apparently it's the first ever talk in the energy sector for empowerment for women ever. I was like, wow, that's a bit of pressure, especially because my Spanglish is really bad. And so the CEO also brought in lots of his staff from sites and stuff to sit there and look at their faces. It was such an awesome experience. It's such a lot of energy backwards. And it talks to the impact that a single person can have. Even the other 50%, a man. So this is David Lopez, and I'm going to talk about the impact that he's had through Wing and other initiatives that he's done on women empowerment in El Salvador. He started a project called La Vida, which is they took the waste fluid from their power station at Awachapan and they used it to create a coffee, cacao commercial operation. So they used all the fluid to grow coffee and cacao commercially, and he only employed women, 600 women to do the work. And why he did that? Because he knew that if you support women, they will take everyone else with them. El Salvador is a very poor country. 90% of people live on dirt floors, and he wanted the community to benefit, so he focused on only hiring women. He also set up, well, if I'm hiring women, I also need to provide for family, like the schools and care. And he set up also Ventana al Mundo, which is a school on site at the power station where all the local schools around have 1 day a week where they come on site and they do first world coding, they have art, they have a full kitchen, and his whole Ventana al Mundo means the window to the world. He wants every El Salvadorian living around that power station to believe their life is bigger than where they are. And I turned up, I turned up, and they were like, "We're just going to go over here." And I'm like, "Cool." And we pull up, and there's like 20 kids, and they're all sitting there with New Zealand flags. And I was like, what's happening here? And then a couple of the cute kids come up and in English, bad English, and they're trying their very best. "Thank you for coming to El Salvador and helping our women. We really appreciate it. And we hope our," and I was like, oh my God. They have a lot of instant hay fever. And, you know, that's amazing. That's in El Salvador. You know, it was such an amazing experience for me to see that and the impact that geothermal and opportunities can look like in the real world. He also only employed women in trade roles because they're really, so I walked around the power station. I'm like, what? It looks a bit different here. And then he had to put in nurseries, and he also made sure they all got high school qualifications of all his staff. So it just shows that when people decide to make things different, they can. Latin America is very macho. It is, you know, religious, really strong Christian environment, tough place to do stuff like this. So if they can do it, you know, what are we up to everywhere else? So one of the things, seeing all this sort of work, I thought, okay, we need men to be engaged in this conversation. And I kept getting sick of blokes asking me, well, what do I do? What do I do? And so we went around and we were like, okay, what's some training? And it was boring as like dull, like lecturing, like don't be a bad person, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no, we need to build some crack tools. So we started the Wingman Special Task Force. Why? Because blokes love a task force, right? And so in 2017, we started a pilot with Mercury, and we wanted to create a tool that we gave tools to men to support gender empowerment in their spaces. So we wanted to give them the understanding to get the lens and activate them. Some of the topics that we cover on the left, all ones we know about. This training is only for men. Yeah, only for men. And that's because you should not ask the people who have suffered the inequality to be the only ones lifting to change it, because you're just adding a burden on top of the hurt. It's the same, we see it all the time with Māori. The only Māori in the office gets to do all the Māori initiatives. No, it's like asking someone who's a victim of sexual assault to then do the work to get the perp. No, everybody needs to do the work, especially the ones who haven't suffered. So we created an army of people to help lift and come up with ideas and enact change. And this is Jaime and Trizea Future Wing. He's a wingman. What we saw after this training was actual real change. I'd go into technical meetings, I'd see men set up and seeing women get talking, hey mate, can you just wait to talk? And inviting people to talk at the table. I'd see men taking the notes. I'll take the notes, or I'll go get the coffee, or I'll organise the drinks, or the whatever that looks like. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And they became super advocates. I sat in a room where 2 young technical team members challenged a senior executive, and I said nothing, which is a surprise, and said, we don't do enough for women. We want to change how we recruit. Here's a whole list of policies and activities we can do right here on this site to make a difference. And wrote the policies, did the thing, did all the work, handed it over. And I tell you what, at that one moment, I sat there and thought, oh my God, the world's changing. The world's changing. And it was really, I was so buoyed by that. Nothing changed. It wasn't changed. But I just thought if every woman in this organisation could see what you just did, you'd get so much support and so much thank you for doing that. And they were disheartened. They come out and said, oh, it didn't change. I said, no, you did something amazing today, and keep doing it, because it's erosion. And we see them now. I see a couple of my colleagues, one of them's gone to Australia, one of the wingmen, and he's now the only guy on the Australian Women in Wind group. And he turns up all the time. He's usually the only bloke. And he's like, I'm here, so it's really interesting, this piece of work that we've done. We've done it at Mercury Contact, really engaged in it, had lots of cool conversations. We've done it offshore. We got sponsorship from the World Bank to roll it out overseas. And we've done some train the trainers training. Oh, cute, that's catchy, isn't it? Train the trainers training. And we did a workshop in Central America, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Chile. We had members from all those countries. We trained them to deliver it in their own countries. And so they now deliver it to men across the board inside their own organisations. And they're still going every year, rolling out more men, understanding how to support women in their lives and think about things a bit differently. And so Wing has, for me, been an absolute motivator to make me carry on, makes me brave, makes me stand in front of people and talk about this stuff. I sometimes the message is way more important than yourself. And I don't care about the mic. I've got stuff to do. It might seem like I love a mic, but I know that's really important and I have the privilege, so I should do it. So for you, if you want things to change, and this is corny, yes, I know, you've got to start with yourself. But it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Until you decide that you are going to live, act, be different in the world, things are not going to change. No one's going to hand it to you. No one's going to bring you the answer. No one's going to say, oh, I've seen you do that really cool stuff for the last 12 years. Here, it's a reward and all the things that you deserve. No. You have to decide how you're going to influence and change. And the first thing you need to do is you need to influence yourself. And that, okay, cool. So you need to own your own thoughts. Be critically think. Don't just, absorb everything you hear. You own it. Take a position on something. Think about it. Do I have a position? What is my position? What is the evidence? What is real? Can I change it? Yes, you should always be ready to change your position. And stop limiting the criticism and negative thoughts and statistics in your head. If I thought that I am from Tauhara College in Taupō, working in forestry, I was going to be the president of the world. Yes, I did say it. I did say it. It's a bit confronting. And saw the statistics. Would I really believe I would have been that person? No, because they're just statistics. It's just probability. It's not actuals. It's just math. Why not you? Why not you? Oh. Others have an impact and influence on you right now. I'm having an influence on you right now. But also, you already have an influence on others that you probably don't think about. And don't underestimate the good or the damage you do with your influence. If you do not stand up, if you don't call it out, if you act in a way, people are watching. It's not just about you. So you are influencing other people around you with your words and your actions, your viewpoints and your attitude. People are watching and you're influencing them. They are following. It's not just down, it's up as well. It's around, everywhere around you. So think about that and learn to influence the externalities. So what I mean by that is set boundaries. So I know when I walk in a room and I'm at a table or in a room like this, whenever someone says something sexist, they look at me like, oh no, Andy, I just said runs like a girl. And I'm like, that's so bad. And so I create an environment where people feel really uncomfortable with that behavior. And whilst I'm deeply imperfect, and we're all imperfect, and I say those things too, and that's okay, people know that there's boundaries for me in this space, and I emanate them. You should do that too. What are yours? Because then when you want to start, yes, integrity is everything, everything. When you want to start influencing other people, it can only be after you convince yourself, because you can't convince somebody else to believe something if you don't believe it to be true. You cannot. Like we talk about salespeople selling stuff and, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's all cool. That's transactionary. But if you want people to buy into something deep, you have to truly believe it. And an example of that is when I ask my wing members, chapter members around the world, and I say, go and ask your employer to allocate some time for you to work on wing. And they're like, oh, but how do we sell it? And how? I said, you first have to believe this work is equal to or more important than the technical work you're doing, because don't go in the room if you don't believe it to be true. Because if you turn up in that room and say, I sort of think I could shove it on a Friday at lunchtime, how, you know, that is not, you're not going to convince anyone it's important if you don't truly believe it to be important. You need to find out, when you're trying to influence something, you need to find the connection between what they believe and what they need and what you need to get done. And you need to draw the line. People just don't automatically do the math and interpret it and get it. You have to draw the line and say, this will help you with that to do that. And people really want to belong to a cause. People want to feel like they've got purpose and going to make impact and change. But people will not fall on their sword for you. Just think about it. You do not know what other people have at stake. You do not know what their environment is, how threatened or secure they feel. So do not expect, just because it's logical and it's important and they get it, that they will sacrifice themselves for what you need done. Don't ask them to do it. And don't take yourself too seriously, guys. I mean, you know, it's just a thing. You'll get over it. You'll have another shot. This isn't the only one shot. You don't have to be the one person that makes all the change and everything like that. It just don't take yourself too seriously, because life is hard. Guilt is not a sustainable driver. Saying just do it because it's good. Because what happens is it's not a trading commodity. What will happen is people will start to avoid you because they feel bad. They'll associate you with feeling bad. You don't want that. And games are won and lost in the locker room. What that means is you win as a team and you lose as a team and you do it together. So this is not a solo space. You do it as a team, and whether you win or lose, you go with your gang. And then aim so freaking high that every step forward is a win. So high. So one little key thing that I'm going to talk to about is a little task that I have for you. So this is about using bias to help you win something. It's called the status quo bias, and I call it take the first position. So we have tendencies to make decisions based on what we know and what we are comfortable with. And people prefer to stay with where we are. People don't want to change. You know, we've heard that saying, like, it's always done this way. This is a bias that people have, and people will take the current position as their reference against new ideas. They won't just look at ideas. Do you think people are looking at ideas to weigh up all the ideas as an even space? No. Naturally, what people do is take the current space and then look at ideas against the current space. So you're not asking people to test ideas. You're asking people which one are they going to prefer, the current space or that one, current space or that one. So here's a tool for you. Always take the first space then. If you are in an argument and your argument's between red or blue, speak up first and say, I think red's the option. And then watch everybody go around the room and say, well, red's really good, but blue's cool too. And then, yeah, red's good, red's good. And then you have a much greater chance of getting red if you take the first position. Try this with your friends around, what are we having for dinner? And see what happens. Then just watch them play it out. Watch them play it out. And like, yeah, I like Chinese, but like pizza would be good. Oh yeah, Chinese is good, but just try it and see what happens. Really creepy. Really creepy. And so I have some very strong opinions, but we don't have time to go through all of those right now. But I just have some tips for you. Never, ever, ever, ever take the minutes. Never, ever, ever get the coffee. If you're in a position and someone says you take the minutes, it's like, well, let's rotate the minutes. Let's have turns. In my business, you'll see my team, the blokes will get up and ask people if they want coffee. And it's really strange how people react to that. Like they're like, oh, dude's getting the coffee. If you are participating in a conversation, you need to be engaged and in it, not the one writing the minutes and being on the outside of the conversation. Be visible, stand up, let other people see you, let your tribe see you, because you don't know who's in your tribe until you stand up and say things. And also let other women see you, and not just like standing at events like this about empowering women, sure, but on panels about highly technical things, talking about technical things, not asking women, what about your kids? What about how do you do all that sort of stuff? Asking them what their view is on industry. What is their view on some technical deep, so be visible and participate. And finally, I really want you to be intolerant. Just be intolerant of bad behavior. Here's a little trick. If you feel like a conversation, you're in a room in a meeting and someone says something that's really off, you're never going to have all the right words to say. No one ever does. I don't. Sounds like I do. I don't. A little trick I have is that to create time, I say, oh, that makes me feel a bit yuck. And it's a stalling tactic for me to think about some good things to say. But then also what that does is signal to everybody else I'm feeling uncomfortable. And what will happen is if people know those are the words you use, they will jump in too. So that's a little how to like give yourself a bit of space if you want to participate. This is, I know you can't read it. It's a bad Coalition for Equal Value You Could Pay. It's a poster I saw. It says, prepare your daughters for working life. Give them less pocket money than your sons. And when I saw that 22% gender pay gap come out, like, I don't know, I felt horrified and yuck. And I think about these things and we talk about, and I said to Alice, I was like, well, how, got to make it right for your kids. And then I'm like, we both agreed, yeah, that's really cool, make it right for them. But what about us? I'm someone's daughter. At what age was it okay to pay me differently? What age is it okay for all of us to sit in the room and feel okay about it? And, Why do we think it's okay every day we turn up? People say it's complex and it's difficult. It's not. It's a decision. You change it. So, final slide. Thank God. That's what I'm thinking you're saying. Is we have to do things differently. And you hear that people say that all the time, but it's like, it's today. It's right now. It's in all of your spaces all the time. It's not waiting for someone else to change it. Leadership doesn't come with a title. Leadership comes from your influence and your ability to make change where you are in the spaces where you are. I heard a really good quote not long ago from Chloe Swarbrick. I don't care what your politics is, doesn't really matter. But the quote is, inspiration is a mirror. And I heard her say it and I thought, I really like that. And what that means is, there's something that you see in me. You think I'm not saying you think I'm inspirational, but if you do, there's something that you see in me that you actually recognize in yourself. There's something in what I say or do, or how I am in the world, or my viewpoint, that resonates in you, and you think, I wish I could do that more. Was there something I want to give more oxygen? I want to be that more. And what is it? And then my final thing I want to say is, what are you waiting for? So, kia ora koutou, very much.
Okay. Love your work. Thank you for sharing that, all of that. How's that fire feeling in your belly, guys? Raging? Warm? Lukewarm? Some great ideas to take away that we can all implement, right? My husband actually works for Contact. He's done Wingman. It's led to some cool conversations over coffee in our house. And I've seen some of those changes through colleagues as well, in that intolerance piece. So I hope you're feeling energized to accelerate action, and picked up some shiny gems from that corridor. I'd like to welcome up Tracy Hickman, who's going to wrap us up. We've run out of time for our Q&A. All goods, all goods. Who's our so Tracy's our Chief Wholesale Officer, and she'll be a familiar face to many of you. She's paved the way for women in our sector. So if you can wrap up, that would be wonderful.
Kia ora, everybody. Thanks, Alice. Andy, amazing. We don't have time for Q&A, but actually often after a speech like that, you have a million questions, and sometimes we use it as an excuse to ask questions to confirm what we want to take away. We don't need questions. You've given us the inspiration. You've empowered us with no excuses at all. And look, when I read about you, funnily enough, I live about 100 metres. I spend too much time away from home, but we're going to catch up in our local pub for a glass of wine to share more experiences. But when I read about Andy and asked a number of people about her in advance of today, everything about what I read of you, what I saw of you, I wanted to feel intimidated. And I wanted to kind of almost, feel like, well, that's Andy, I can't ever be that. You've taken away any excuses, because what we've seen today is someone so incredibly humble, down to earth, girl from Tauhara. I think I can relate to a girl from Tauhara, and I think you've empowered everyone in this room, male and female. I think take away some amazing things. I want to thank you for the time and effort that you put in worldwide to changing the world, one person at a time, one idea at a time. The one idea that I'm going to take away from you, actually, the many, many ideas, but the one idea that's specific to the application, as you know, that this sector in New Zealand has an energy challenge right now. We have energy security challenges. We experienced that last winter. We're experiencing this winter, working with a lot of people across the sector to make sure we can get through this winter and the years ahead without running out of energy as we electrify our industry. The one idea, who's here from the fuels team in Genesis at the moment? Awesome. Because the one idea not on the list is actually extracting the heat from dancing. So Malcolm and Claire, I actually need to go to the list. Nightclub, day club, in our basement down here. But imagine if that's not enough. We're thinking about these bike trails across New Zealand. What if we could have dance clubs on every corner and get through winter? So an amazing idea. I never thought of that one, but back to reality. Andy, thank you so much. Everybody in this room, I think, is walking away empowered. I'm going on holiday from today. And you know, when you're going on holiday, you feel a bit tired. And as I sort of turned up this morning, I was thinking, I'm feeling a bit tired. Well, actually, I'm not anymore. Right? And I'm not going to go on holiday anymore. I want to get stuck back in. So I work with all of you guys to do great things in the sector. So thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you, everybody online, for joining. And I'll hand back to Alice. Oh, final word, actually, is I really want to acknowledge, firstly, the work of Mana Wāhine generally, who I think are just ramping up, working alongside other sector groups and other industry groups across New Zealand to do great work in the space of gender balance. And I want to acknowledge Genesis's Women in Wholesale, which we are just ramping up again with the support of some amazing male managers. In particular, I want to acknowledge you, Malcolm, for the support that you give us. Holds us back from nothing. And, you know, Angus and Duncan and a number of males in the room that really are doing great work in the space of others. So thank you for that. But particularly you, Anita, Alice and Rhonda. I'd love to say it's not on top of your day job, but I know it is. And I know that is our really big challenge of making sure this stuff isn't on top of our day jobs, but actually a core part of what we do now and now. So Andy, thank you so much. Oh, and the one thing that Andy and I do have in common, which he doesn't know yet, which we will meet, gin. Yeah.
Who else is ready to kick down a door? Look, I'll just settle that energy. I don't want to fuck it into you. Thank you so much, Andy. But it's always nice to go back to mahi, feeling like clear and ready to get stuck back in, Tracy. So follow me as we close this hui. Ka whakairia te tapu, kia wātea ai te ana, kia tūruki whakataha ai. Kia tūruki whakataha ai. Haere, hui, tai kia. Thank you, everybody.
It's all right. Can you